Hello there. Let me ask you a little bit of a question. Do you like scary stories? Well, if you do, then you've come to the right place. You see, for October, the month of Halloween, the month of spooky and scary, I've decided to do a video like this. A video where I tell you a very, very true, very scary story. A story about a being, but we'll get to that later. One dark, cold night, a boy named Tommy decided to go outside for a walk. As he stepped outside, he could feel the cold fall air hit his skin, but he decided not to turn back for a jacket. The boy strolled down the street calmly, peacefully. Only the sound of his footsteps in his ears. But as he listened closer to the noise around him, the sounds only heard in silence, he began to realize that it wasn't just his footsteps behind him. There were two sets of footsteps, as if something were following him, or someone were following him. Tommy quickened his pace, a little bit panicked. He didn't want to turn around and go home, because then he'd be walking directly towards whatever was following him. So he went forwards, and the footsteps continued behind him. Eventually, he drew near to a section of the street with no lights, and as he walked into the darkness, his fear grew. But the footsteps behind him faded away. He thought whatever was back there had stopped following him. So he turned around to look. And no one has ever seen Tommy again. But what was it that was following Tommy? Was there really safety in the darkness? And did he just turn around too quick? Or did the cover of dark silence the footsteps somehow? Well, the second, as implausible as it may seem, is actually the accurate answer. Because what was following him was a shadow. A being that only goes by the name of the Shadow. You see, the Shadow is a very, very strange being. A being that looks like none other than a shadow of a man. And so someone being followed by the shadow, should they turn around, would see nothing but a shadow, and many assume that it's just their own, to which plays a big part in their downfall. Of course, the shadow would get them regardless, but if they assume it's their own shadow, then they have no fear in their hearts of their impending doom. And maybe some people like it better that way. I think that'd be a better way to go than knowing you're about ready to be killed by a being you have no power to fight. But Tommy didn't see anything. He was in the dark. He was in the section where there were no lights. And so the shadow was not seen. In order for there to be dark, like a shadow, there must be light. If there is nothing but dark, then there is no contrast between light and dark, thus not being a shadow visible. And so when Tommy turned around, he didn't see anything. The shadow just entered his body and possessed him to go to the cemetery nearby, only about 60 paces to his left. As Tommy entered the cemetery, he had no control over what he was doing. Fear began to course through his mind. He wondered why he was doing what he was doing. He walked further into the cemetery and stared at a gravestone, the one which he buried himself at, dug through piles and mounds of dirt, which was freshly dug that morning, opened a coffin, and climbed in. People never suspected a thing. They just thought as though the grave wasn't buried properly and the dirt shifted. Maybe animals dug in, looking for something, and the dirt was just placed back over top. Tommy was left in there, suffocated to death in that coffin, because the shadow made his mind bury himself. But what happened to the shadow after Tommy's death? Well, the shadow continued on. The shadow always continues on. All of its hosts perish, but the shadow continues on. It seeks nothing more than a human to make throw its life away in some sort of sick manner. Some bash their skulls against the wall until they shatter. Some swallow sharp objects and cut their internal organs to pieces. Some light themselves on fire. And some jump into nearby bodies of water and inhale as much as they can until they finally die of suffocation. The shadow is a merciless being, put here only to destroy. And that is why, if you are walking at night, you should always fear the shadows. And you should fear even more when you can't see them. But how do I know this? Well, I also happened to be out that night. I saw Tommy walk into that graveyard and bury himself far beneath the dirt. Boy, haven't I said anything. Because if I do, I might be next.